Now that you have asked all of your students what they were thinking about as they were moving, then you have some decisions to make. You have to select something to go from. In the previous video, there was the idea of a truck, and then there was a couple tires going, and there was a house, and then we had pushing a student, and that got a lot of chuckles from the kids. You have all of these things on the table. Let's just say we have all these ideas spread out on the table, and now we're going to select one or two if they're related, like a tire and a truck. And from that, you're going to ask them some follow-up questions. And this basically is left up to you. There's no right or wrong way to begin. You want to keep it as broad as possible. Your questions are going to be leading the student to think more deeply about the subject. Let's say it's a car. Now we could ask, what color is your car? But the color of a car, even though it's important, it really isn't that important. And speaking of cars are important because they carry people here and there. They carry people on roads. Right? They don't carry the same number of people. They have different number of seats for different number of people. And all roads are not the same. Some roads are paved and some are not. Asking the child, how many people does your car carry? Or, and these are just examples, they're not the only things you could ask, or on what kinds of roads does your car travel? Because the road is going to determine how rugged the car is. The number of people would naturally move to either families or friends or other things we could talk about down the road. I have a graphic here to help you think about this. We have our prompt. In the previous video, the prompt was moving something heavy. That was the prompt, very open-ended. And now we have a bunch of responses. We elicit responses from the children. So we have all these responses on the table, and we select one, and now we're going to move down to the next level, which is social studies, math, or science in the big picture. We're not looking for atomistic knowledge and skills standards. We're looking at big picture ideas. Social studies, math, and science. And as you can see, I have given some ideas for you. For example, social studies relates to geography and culture and economy. So the questions that you ask could have something to do with any one of those large things. Then after you ask an initial question, such as a vehicle, a car, a truck, so how many seats, I'll just go there, how many seats does your truck have? 5, let's just say. Then you move to the next student or whomever and ask, if you had a truck, very important, if you had a truck, how many seats would it have? Oh, and you just accept the answer and you move on. If you had a truck, how many seats would it have? Most of the time, children are not going to have the same answer, and that's what you want. You want as many different answers as possible. We're staying with one idea, in this example, truck, and we're asking if you had a truck. So now they're having to use their mind to create an answer. And then with 22 or 25 answers of how many seats, then you can start to see patterns. They can start to see patterns. And then they can start thinking. But I'm getting a little ahead of the game here. Listen to the responses of the children regarding their ideas about one idea. Where
were you moving your house to?
To the desert.
And we could go there, but let's not. We're going to go if then. Okay? So let's go with Kate C. So if you had a house, so now everybody is asked the same question.
Connor, if you had a house, where would you move it to?
In the ocean.
And we'll just let it be and move on, because that's a whole nother topic. And notice where his was, and notice where his was. You can't get much more opposite than this location and that location.
If you were a house, or if you had a house, where would you move it to?
Antarctica.
If you had a house, how big would your house be?
It's interesting that the first student said desert, and then the other student, the very next student, said ocean. The very next student said Antarctica. 3 very different places on the planet. What a great way to assess students' knowledge without really giving them a test. They really understand quite a bit of the world, different places in the world. If you know where they are, then you can take them where they're not, from the known to the unknown. A simple idea of moving a house to Antarctica could eventually turn into a problem of how would we transport this house to Antarctica? What would be involved? What sort of modes of transportation might we need to use? What might we need to think about? Seemingly innocent questions such as, if you were a house, or if you had a house, where would you move it? Such an innocent question has important ramifications for decisions that we make. Getting children to think about something that is relevant to them. That's the beauty of Listen, Move, Think.